After maybe the best weekend of football that all of us have collectively experienced over the last 20 years, what does that mean for the Arizona Cardinals? Are they further behind than we thought they were midway through the season as it pertains to the rest of the NFL? And if not Kliff, who? We'll talk about it. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals, Tuesday edition of the show. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day, free and available on all platforms. He is Bo Brack, the /babysitting / working from home / podcaster. And I'm the guy that, that wants Kliff Kingsbury fired. We got a lot of things to talk about today. After what we watched over the weekend, Bo.
Yeah.
We watched maybe the best football game that I've seen, in my adult life. The back and forth, the 25 point scores, whatever it was in the last 2 minutes. I mean, it was absolutely insane. It brought to question all the overtime rules. But man, it just shows what the cream of the crop of the NFL looks like. And even with Tampa Bay and the Rams, even though Tampa Bay took the first half off of football, they were able to make it a game. We saw, all of the teams that won and the Bills, let's put them in there, they seem to be at points eons further ahead down the road than the Cardinals are. Is that something, were you thinking about the Cardinals during those games? Oh man, the Bills offense and the Chiefs offense is just, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are 1-1A, best quarterbacks in the NFL.
I think there's three teams where you're just like, wow, they're way further ahead than the Arizona Cardinals. And you mentioned two of them, the Chiefs and the Bills. And that was probably your AFC championship game, even though they have to take on the Bengals. Because I think the Bengals and the Niners, the Arizona Cardinals, they beat the Niners twice. And the Bengals have surpassed them in their rebuild, even though they're a year behind. They're a year ahead of schedule, and Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor and those guys are figuring it out on the fly. And congrats to them. But as far as the cream of the crop, and I think the Rams have taken that step, even though they almost relinquished that lead. There's three teams that are way ahead of the Arizona Cardinals as far as just talent, as far as putting themselves in a position to be successful at this time of year. So the Arizona Cardinals, yeah, they have some work to do, but at the same token, that game on Sunday night, the fourth of, 4 games that was ended in a walk-off, and every single game had a field goal to end regulation. It reminded me of the Rams-Chiefs game from 2018. It was the coming out party for Patrick Mahomes. It was the Rams just lighting up the scoreboard with then Jared Goff, who's an up-and-comer, and they went back and forth on Monday Night Football. And then, especially after watching the 2018 Cardinals that season, you're like, man, they're not even. The Arizona Cardinals, as far as offense, are in the Jurassic era, and these guys are in the space age. It's not even close. You can't even say that they're all NFL teams at the same time, because that would be unfair. So I think the Arizona Cardinals, yeah, still a long way to go, but not as far as some of the lower end teams are.
Right. They are perfectly mediocre compared to they're not towards the bottom of the barrel. We're not talking about this. We're more grading on a scale here, grading on a curve, which is what got me through high school and college. I don't know about you, Bo, but grading on a curve is something that we're looking at with the Cardinals being maybe the weakest of the good teams, one of the weakest of the good teams roster-wise, especially with all the uncertainty going into the offseason. There's going to be question marks around Kyler Murray. I still think they're a little bit unfounded, even though he didn't play his best ball down the stretch. I think he needs a better cocoon around him to teach him, to help him grow day in and day out. Instead of it, I feel like it's more just him trying to learn on his own, which isn't good for anybody. Look what Brian Daboll's done for Josh Allen. Josh Allen couldn't hold on to the ball when he got drafted. He was a turnover machine when he got drafted. And then you saw when the lights were the brightest, what he was able to do on Sunday night, and that is growth. That is growth. That is teaching. That is coaching. That's stability. And I don't think Kyler Murray has as much of that. But you're looking at like the playoff teams, the 14 playoff teams this year. I think you'd rank the Cardinals like 9th, 8th.
Yeah, maybe. Let's keep in mind that their top wide receiver was out.
Sure.
You take away 8 red zone touchdowns from DeAndre Hopkins in the games that he played this season. That's a big loss. And when you look at these teams, like you're giving a lot of credit to Brian Dable, and he deserves a lot of credit. But look, Josh Allen is a talent, is an absolute stud, and he's the one out there making the plays. And he's improvising a lot. Brian Dable can't teach Josh Allen on 4th down to pick up the first down with his legs, look to the middle of the field on a couple of those big touchdown passes that he made. Was it 25 points in the final 2 minutes? It was absurd by those two teams. But how far away the Arizona Cardinals, if they have DeAndre Hopkins, like when I look at these rosters and these teams that are at the top tier, have it's Kelsey and it's Tyreek Hill, and then it's it's a complimentary cast behind them. And it's Cooper Kupp and it's OBJ. It used to be Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, but you have to have two horses. You have to have 2 stallions here if you're going to be an NFL offense, and then kind of surround them with other guys that can make plays. And the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, you have to think are they one big key addition away to really putting it into that next gear where they need to go in if they really want to contend?
I mean, that's a good point. I can appreciate that. I appreciate that Josh Allen, was 4th and 4, 4th and 6. That saved their season. And he was sacked 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he was able to do it. Sure. But the conversations I have with that, the back and forth I have with that is it fits. I'm not saying you saying that specifically at all. But it could fit to anybody's narrative, coach, player. You could always say, oh no, well, it's on the coach. Oh no, well, it's on the player, positively or negatively. The majority of the time, it's the player making the plays, but it's the coach that has to massage them to get that talent out of them to, that's what practice is for. So it's a chicken or the egg scenario for sure. But I agree. Maybe I am giving Brian Dable a little bit too much credit. I just think all in all, what we've seen from teams that are really making deep playoff runs and what we saw from the Cardinals after their bye week, it's not in the same arena. It's not in the same arena. And DeAndre Hopkins, but DeAndre Hopkins wasn't getting all of this, attention from the offense to begin with when he was playing. He was probably getting 60% or 70% of what another team would give him. Wide receiver 1 with the Cardinals. I mean, he didn't again, 2019 or 2020, more red zone receptions for Devontae Adams than DeAndre Hopkins had targets. Some teams scheme solely around one player, and they win a lot of games. And the Cardinals have not been able to do that with DeAndre Hopkins at all.
10 games,
as the focal point.
10 games, 8 touchdowns, all in the red zone. I mean, he was
how many total yards did he have? 500?
572.
Yeah, so that's 57 yards a game.
Think about the offense when he was in the lineup, and who was also. I mean, AJ Green played a lot better. Christian Kirk's game was elevated. He elevated. We want Kyler Murray to be the one to elevate them, but DeAndre Hopkins, at the end of the day, he was the straw that was stirring the drink. No doubt about it. When he left the lineup, and it's not the excuse that he still wasn't going to be the biggest difference maker against LA. They probably still lose that game easily. But it looks a lot better down the stretch than it did in reality for the Arizona Cardinals. He was a force. He was. And my fantasy team suffered from it. And the Arizona Cardinals actually suffered from it more.
Alex Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. Follow him at Bob Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. We're a handful of subscribers away from 2,000 on YouTube. I'm sure we'll hit it when we hit it. Thank you to everybody who's been along this journey for us, with us this offseason. It still burns a little bit. The Cardinals aren't playing football while football is being played, but we'll be giving you the content every day from your favorite team. Coming up next, if not Kliff Kingsbury, who? And that's something that Bo's been asking me a lot. So if it's not Kliff, who's it going to be? We're going to talk about it a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be good. Next, betonline.ag. I know the Arizona Cardinals don't have any lines for the rest of the season because they're not playing, but BetOnline still would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs, through the playoffs, and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today. Go there, receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code Locked On to get started. Again, go to the website or use your mobile device today to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code Locked On. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Pop the vocal cord there. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. Follow him at Bob Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. We're going to bring out our Rolodex this offseason like we did last season. We're going to have some excellent guests. We've got something in line to where we're going to bring on for a series, a guest that focuses solely on a specific position group, people with knowledge, people who've played the game. I'm really excited for that. It's still in the works, but it's still very fresh, the 2021 season for the Cardinals ending. So we're going to have a whole laundry list of great guests this offseason for you to enjoy. I'm leading the charge, and I have been since the end of the 2020 season. The Kliff Kingsbury should no longer be the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Bo Brack has vehemently disagreed up until, the last couple weeks of the regular season and into the playoff. I don't think he necessarily still thinks the Kliff should be removed from post. And he asked a very interesting question, time in and time out. Well, if not Kliff, who? And without me, red-eyed, bulging veins like Monica and Friends saying anybody, I mean, it's not anybody, but there's going to be names that are going to be thrown around. And we talked at the end of last season, I'll let you get here in a second, like how lucky the Cardinals were that Bieniemy and Dable weren't picked up by teams last year, because if something were to go wrong this year, they'd still be available for the Arizona Cardinals to hire. Now, it seems like, by all accounts, that, and we have to guess because Steve Keim decides to hibernate this time of year. When there's actual responsibility and actual things that he has to answer for, he chooses to hibernate. He's going to have a hell of a beard in August. That's the next time we're going to see him, probably. So,
until he tabs the next first rounder a starter. I mean, he's got to do that in May.
I had that one too. I'm going to keep tabs for how many times I was right. It's a very short list. If not, Bo, let's have an exercise here.
Let me ask you real quick. Where would you rank because there's 8 coaching vacancies right now. So what does that leave? 24 head coaches in the NFL right now. Where would you rank Kliff Kingsbury in as far as the head coaches go right now, active head coaches? I think the shorter list would be, who do you rank below Kliff Kingsbury? Anybody come to mind?
I mean, probably Matt Rule.
Matt Rule is the guy that I have 24 out of 24.
Yeah, probably Matt Rule.
What about Mike McCarthy?
I would still take Mike McCarthy at this point.
I wouldn't.
I mean, I know, because you haven't liked Mike McCarthy forever.
He's 2-0 against him.
I don't think that
it matters.
Well, it's the players, Bo. It's the players, Bo. It's not the. I would take Dan Campbell over Kliff Kingsbury today.
No chance.
Today, I would.
That's
I would.
Crazy talk.
Well, you'd hire he wouldn't be calling plays. You'd hire an offensive coordinator. I'd have Dan Campbell to lead my team. 100%.
You have Matt Foley, motivational speaker, as your head
coach?
Me
llamo Matt Foley.
Come on, man. Nick Sirianni, I think, did a decent job, but
he did do it. He elevated his team. Okay, that's what you're looking to do. Frank Reich, I would take.
He lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in an elimination. Like, he could have won and got in his team, but
that was probably Carson Wentz. See what I'm talking about? You could do it both ways. Robert Saleh, they won more games than they should have. And they were competitive in more games. They were without Zach Taylor for what the hell is his name? What the hell is the quarterback's name? Yeah, who cares? Yeah, they were without him. God, I'm turning into my father.
A turnover machine.
He was, but they won, and it was probably on the players they lost that many games. They won.
Staley.
Oh, I would take Brandon Staley
You're
million
crazy.
times.
You're crazy.
Million times.
You can actually point to a definitive moment where he cost the team. He actually cost this team the postseason by calling that timeout.
In theory.
He was also the guy. Remember the game where he called it against the Chiefs where they were winning big and he kept calling going for it on fourth down in the red zone? Like Brandon Staley, no chance I'd take him over Kliff Kingsbury at this point.
Oh, yeah, for
I've
sure.
Kliff Kingsbury at a 24. I've got him somewhere hovering in like the between 14 and 16. Out of 24. We'll see what happens. Like when Brian Flores gets hired, we'll see. Now, I think it's inevitable he gets a head coaching gig.
How many, like, asking the other way, like, how many coaches could have done a better job than Kliff with this roster? And I think that's more of a, and I understand the exercise.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know 10 seconds before we started doing this so I could prep for it. But I think the other way is how many middle rung coaches could have done a better job with this team? And I think Frank Reich definitely would have done a better job with this team. I think guys that are right in the middle. I think Matt Rule's 24 to 24. It's true. Christian McCaffrey's been out for the better part of the last 2 seasons, so that's not his fault. Sam Darnold's been whatever the opposite of a vision is, whatever the bad side of a vision is. Like, obviously, the top tier guys like Harbaugh. Arthur Smith is probably 50-50. The fact that they won 7 games this year was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yep. Really thought he did a great job for sure.
Yeah. So this is not a devil situation with head coaches. With GMs, maybe with players, maybe with head coaches, you got to get it right. You got to get it right for what you want the vision of your organization to look like. This man, right when they signed J.J. Watt, said that's not a guy you want to disappoint. Head coaches don't say that about players. If you're equipped to be a head coach and a leader of men, and I don't think Kliff Kingsbury is, I think that the Cardinals would have had a better chance down the road to take that step forward and at least win the division when you have a 2-game lead with 4 games to go or whatever it is.
But then you hear the reports of like Brian Flores and what he said to Tua or what he said to his staff about Tua.
He thinks Tua's a bad quarterback.
I know, and that's not going to elevate anybody's play.
It's not my quarterback.
He's the 5th overall pick.
Justin Herbert, that must burn in South Beach. That must absolutely burn in South Beach. But these are okay. So if not Kliff, is there somebody that comes to mind for you that in this exercise that, hey, Bo, you have the opportunity to remove Kliff Kingsbury and add this one person? Is there somebody that comes to mind for you that it would be? Or are you still on the I'm Kliff? And until he absolutely forces me to jump ship, I'm going to stay on board.
I don't think on the current market that there is anybody that could elevate this team to go where the fan base thinks they should have gone this year. And I don't think a lot of people are taking in all the variables that went into their collapse. And Kliff Kingsbury was definitely part of it. But when you look at who's available, there is a lot of just question marks. Like you can tell me Brian Bieniemy or Eric Bieniemy, but what do we know? Like, what's his role as far as I know he's got the OC title, but what is his role in the Chiefs offense? Has he been the guy that's been working with Patrick Mahomes on a day-to-day basis and developing Patrick Mahomes, or is just elite talent working with Andy Reid, who's the main play caller there? Brian Dable, what would he look like with having the reins of a franchise? We don't know. I think it's just taking not as big of a risk as Kliff Kingsbury because that's probably the riskiest hire in the history of NFL, right? You're taking a guy that failed at the college level at 35 and 40 at his alma mater.
Yeah.
But that was with the intention of taking these, like we were talking about on Monday, taking baby steps as an organization.
There's no such thing as...
Why is there no such thing? We see teams just... you've seen several guys, their path to success has been just taking, small incremental steps forward. Like, as we mentioned, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning were brutal in their first playoff game. They couldn't just start running right out of the gates. They had to walk a little bit. They had to learn a lot. And, not to fully excuse Kliff, I just don't know. Like, do you want to go get Jim Caldwell? He hasn't coached since 2017. Doug Peterson. We saw that the Philadelphia Eagles, they fell off a cliff after their Super Bowl title. So I just don't see anybody that I'm just like, yeah, that's the guy that's going to really take them to the next step. If there is a top flight coach, like if a McVay somehow becomes available in a couple of years, you do everything. You just drop everything and you go get him. I just don't think that there is that guy that exists right now.
What I'm looking for out of the head coach is leadership. The Cardinals don't have any leadership. That's what this all comes down to for me. Like, yes, the record's great, Bo, and I get it. They've taken leaps from 3-13. Again, though, 2019 was an expansion team compared to what was there in 2018. If Kliff Kingsbury had the 2018 roster, they would have won one game. Okay? Let's not mix it up that Kliff Kingsbury gets credit when they drafted Kyler Murray. Kliff Kingsbury should get credit for the Cardinals making the playoffs this year. Sure, you get credit for that. Obviously, you get credit for that. But it negates when Kyler Murray has kind of plateaued when they need him the most. And yes, that is on the player. Of course it is. It absolutely, a lot of that is. But in most cases, and this case, but when your sole job is to come in, make the Cardinals a powerhouse offensively, and mold Kyler Murray into a stud QB1, and you don't do either for a half of a season twice, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, like you should have a problem with that. Absolutely. But to say, hey, we're going to just hit detonate on this whole thing and we're going to start over when you've seen progress offensively each and every year, you've seen progress from your quarterback. Sure, it hasn't finished how you want it to finish. No doubt about it. Nobody's arguing with that. But when you've seen the offense each and every year score more points than the previous season, that's progress. I know it's not exactly where you want it to go from, middle of the road to top 5. And it probably should have. But at the same token, like you can say, hey, Steve Keim, the Arizona Cardinals were armed with top draft capital going from 2018 to 2019. They had cap space. You know who also did? Jacksonville. Urban Meyer fell on his face. Kliff Kingsbury didn't fall completely on his face in his first season. He was able to get people to believe in Kyler Murray, what the team was doing, got that second season. They're like, okay, this is more than an experiment. And then they made progress, fell short again. And then they made progress, fell short again. This is going to be a very telling season. And I'm still shocked no head has rolled so far from the organization. I don't think that they shouldn't move forward with the status quo. We'll see what happens with Vance Joseph. Maybe they're just anticipating him leaving. But, I just don't see the guy out there that's going to be the one to take him to the next step. I mean, how many first-year coaches were in the playoffs? Sirianni in the weakest division in the NFL, and he was beaten up on the Giants in Washington. He got 4 wins right there.
I wish the he should never have been hired argument was strong enough 3 years in. I wish that was enough. Anybody that has football acumen, look at Zach Taylor, look at even Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, okay? They were in the NFL. They were coaching in the NFL in some capacity. They weren't failing as a coach in college. And we're going to talk about that in so many different shapes and sizes for the next, probably 2 years until Kliff Kingsbury gets canned. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked on Cardinals. We're already going long. Bo has a little sugar-coated bow, as it were, to put on this crap box that ended the Arizona Cardinals regular season. Do I buy into it? I don't know. You're going to find out next. Hey, Cardinals fans. This is Alex Clancy with Locked on Cardinals. Bo likes to talk about this. I like to talk about this. This incredible app for anyone and everyone who buys gas. You need to know about it. It's called Get Upside. Our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN, and you get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back on your first fill up. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using the Get Upside app. Again, download the app. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN. Get up to 50 cents cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 or $300 a month in cash back. There's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can use your bank account, PayPal, e-gift card, or Amazon, other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN with the Get Upside app. So I guess the Pro Bowl's coming up soon. I think it's still a thing. It's in Vegas this year. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, they totally punted. The only thing that NFL players from 15 years ago had on this version of the NFL is they got to go to Hawaii for the Pro Bowl. And now it's like, why? No crap. So many people are bailing. I don't want to go to Vegas on my week off or when my season's over. I'd like to see if Aaron Rodgers shows up to the Pro Bowl as the great leader that he is. I would love to see that. I want him to go wearing a hat of the team he wants to play for. Like, I would love to see that. But Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day, free and available on all platforms. Bo had an interesting thing, and I don't know if I agree with it or not. I don't know if it's a little too, after school, especially for me, but it might grow on me. But why don't you tell me again what your idea was for a little positivity surrounding Kyler Murray and the Cardinals?
I feel lame even just saying it.
It's a good start.
I really do. It's got a lot of qualifiers around it because I'm in the camp, just as you so delightfully described the All-Star game for the NFL, the exhibition that a lot of players don't even take time to show up for. I mean, Vegas is an upgrade over Orlando, at least, right? That's where it was the last couple of years. I think you can get a couple more NFL players on board to go to Vegas, Sin City, instead of going to Orlando. What are you going to do down there? Go to Epcot, maybe a Magic game? Vegas, a lot more to do there. I think after things ended on such a sour note, that Kyler Murray can regain just the slightest bit of confidence in the fan base, maybe even outside fans of the organization, in the Pro Bowl. I think Kyler Murray, if he has an electric performance playing with some of the best players in the league, the ones who show up, that his skill set translates very well to games like the Pro Bowl. And he could go out there, he could light it up for whatever he plays, a couple series and connects with a couple big time wide receivers, gets out, makes a play with his legs. People are going to be like, oh, okay, I get it. This is the skill set that people get excited for. This is the guy that is always in the, the favorites for the league MVP, or at least he has been in the last 2 seasons. This isn't, he's not the guy we saw just on Monday night lose in the playoffs, have a brutal performance, including a pick 6, which was still one of the worst plays maybe in the franchise's history. I think that the Pro Bowl could actually be a good, confidence builder for Kyler Murray. I really do. Did you know that no Cardinals quarterback since they moved to the desert has scored a touchdown in the Pro Bowl? That's how futile the position's been. Now, like, you've had Pro Bowl, Carson Palmer was elected to the Pro Bowl. He didn't play in 2015 after they lost in the NFC Championship game. Kurt Warner went to the Pro Bowl as a Cardinal once. He started the game, didn't throw a touchdown. Kyler Murray could actually be the first Arizona Cardinal to throw a touchdown. Jim Hart, Neil Max, but you know how I feel like I'm not a big, St. Louis and Chicago. I don't really recognize that as Cardinals history.
That's reaching, folks.
It might be reaching, but I think there's a little bit more to it. You can't.
I can appreciate it. I appreciate it. Listen. I'm more looking at it as I hope he goes.
Me too.
If he doesn't go, that could be problematic. Just optics wise. Yeah. I hope he has fun. I hope he shows some personality. I hope it's cool. I don't know. Maybe we'll break down the preseason stats after this.
No,
for other games to don't. Like, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, I hope, yeah. But like, I just hope that all over Twitter, it's going to be, well, where was this the last 6 weeks of the season? That's more like what I'm looking at, because people are inherently negative when it comes to this kind of stuff.
What if he doesn't perform? What if he throws 2 picks?
With no pressure.
Yeah, what if he has like a performance like he did in the preseason where it was just an absolute dud and, he just looks like he did. It's just continuation from Monday night. That would be like, what would you put more stock into? A great performance or poor performance?
It's poor.
Yeah, that'd be a tough pill to swallow.
Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. We're going to be here with you all summer. Okay. This
spring.
is going to be this is one of the slowest content times from now for the next couple weeks until the actual season's over. We'll see. You know, Vance, we didn't even talk about this. Vance Joseph is, by one report at least locally, in Florida, who the Dolphins want to hire next.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, listen, if that's a Vance Joseph or Wink Martindale swap, I mean, I feel like that's like the one thing that I will say before we go is, if you look at this defense as currently constructed, a guy that thinks outside the box a little bit, like, oh yeah, give me all of those athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Give me all the Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins or whatever. Well, you drafted offensive tackle at 23 and you're off and rolling. Like, Wink Martindale, all he's done, look at what he did this year when everybody was hurt.
And they couldn't cover. Like, they had so many defensive secondary members hurt. Humphreys took a step back. We thought he was a CB1.
Right, Marcus Peters, ACL.
Yeah,
right?
But look what he did with Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's exactly right. That's a very good point, because he's not exactly Isaiah Simmons. Patrick Queen is a more traditional linebacker, just like Devin White was, even though Devin White's, I think, a little smaller. Like, you need somebody that knows linebackers, that can just linebackers fix everything.
Certainly help.
You know? I mean, look at Tampa Bay's secondary. Without those linebackers this year, the Tampa Bay would not be where they were, until they lost this weekend. We got plenty of time. We got plenty of time to talk. This is going to be good. We'll keep you hot off the presses. Anything that comes up, we'll
what
be
the
doing
hell
Facebook.
is Todd Bowles doing still?
I don't know.
Mean, come on. Cooper Kupp?
Well,
44
let's just
yards?
let's put a safety on. It's good.
Yeah, it's just Antoine Winfield. He's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not like he just got behind him. Like, Matt Stafford. Okay. Yes. That was like the exact play in the Super Bowl that Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew Emmanuel Sanders on. But like,
that's why you go out and get him, right?
Yeah. But it's like I was hit by more linebackers than Matthew Stafford was the last 2 weeks. Like, it's unbelievable how that offensive line played, even with Whitworth out. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. We'll talk to you tomorrow.